February 18th, Monday.
Kirahara!
Yeah, it's Monday. After sunset, the tempo at the office went up, and about when the editing department just got even livelier.
Kirahara, but why would you?
Hamada-san's enraged voice cut through all the bustle.
You have so much potential. You haven't accomplished anything yet, right?
Sorry.
Follow me to the conference room.
Okay. Surprisingly, the news spread around sooner than I'd expected. I'd hoped I could carry on worry-free at work for a little while longer. What happened?
How should I know? What is the meaning of this?
After leading me to the conference room, Hamada-san took a while to calm himself down, finding it difficult to delve into the matter at hand. He takes out a cigarette, despite having long ago promised to quit after being scolded by his wife. Though the moment he remembered that smoking is forbidden in the conference room, he gets even more irritated.
Submitting a letter of resignation for your editor position. Why would you do that?
As if left with no other choice, he finally cuts to the chase, despite not looking all that eager to do so. For personal reasons, I'll have to resign from this job. He averts his gaze from me, just like I'm looking away from him.
Did you hear that? You heard that, right?
I did. And judging from your reaction, Suzuki, I don't think I'm hearing things.
What is this? Did you think he's being headhunted?
No way. The only one that saw that much value in him was Kazusa-san.
He is rather new. I doubt anyone outside of our office knows about how hard he works.
But still, is this some kind of joke? I mean, this is Kitahara we're talking about. Matsuoka? That guy values responsibility to an absurd degree. He follows every rule to the letter. What is this?
I'm really sorry for quitting on such short notice, but I'll make sure to finish all my current assignments before I do so.
That wasn't my question. What's your reason?
Like I said, a personal matter. As I expected, what I want to talk about the least is what he wants to hear about the most.
Family matters. But you live alone, don't you? Did you hear something from your parents?
This doesn't relate to my parents. It really is a purely personal matter. Well, it doesn't relate to my own parents.
You think we'll be content with that kind of justification? Or do you intend to shield yourself behind company and labor laws?
I'm sorry. You give notice of your resignation a month in advance. The company has no right to refuse.
This is your first year, isn't it? Do you have any idea how much potential you have here?
But, of course, even I know that a written contract isn't everything.
Do you know how many years it takes for a single employee to be profitable to the company? Do you know that we're employing you at a loss until then?
I've managed to find and keep many valuable things through this job. The skills I have learned from both seniors and juniors, the connections and the bonds I have formed.
Even as you are now, you're still a rookie around here. You haven't given back anything yet.
I am aware. It was because I was going to plant my roots here for the sake of myself, the company, and for society. That's why my superiors, my company accepted educating me for free.
Then why? Didn't you work all the way up here from your part-time days? Wasn't getting here always your goal?
Hamada-san.
Ever since the beginning, I thought you were different from others. You had this old-fashioned air about you, in a good way.
That beginning was 3 years ago. It was back when I was tasked with simple physical labor, such as printing copies, running errands, and fetching papers. But at some point, a certain devilish superior of mine that I specifically requested for decided to force more mentally strenuous tasks upon me.
You were diligent, but also quick to make friends. You were argumentative, yet you never tried to lie yourself out of work.
A year after that, she got a promotion and left for America. And since the editing department lost an employee, I was officially employed.
There were times you did too much on your own, but not in a way that took too much initiative from yourself. Rather, you were very serious about your job.
And since then, and up until now, I've been surrounded by a strict, yet somewhat questionable group, and every day has been both a struggle and a joy, not to mention busy.
That's why Kazusa always gave you special treatment. And that goes for me too. And everyone else too. Even the chief editor.
Thank you very much. It's a bit melodramatic, but I liked working here so much I could imagine investing my entire life into working here.
So, how the hell comes that? Without a single word with your superior, you all of a sudden decide to quit.
And it all ends now.
Stop messing around! Why didn't you ask me for advice? Did you have that little faith in me as your superior?
I'm sorry.
Sorry ain't gonna cut it. Tell me why, Kirahara.
All the skills, connections, and the bonds I have formed. All these things that bring value to life. That's not possible. This is not something that can be solved by asking for advice. All of it is undone in a single letter with resignation written on the front.
Even then, it's something to consult with your superior about, isn't it? Something you should talk to me man to man about, right? Weren't you the kind of guy who could do that?
I apologize. I'm really sorry.
What's gotten into you? Fine, leave then. See if I care.
Amada-san was completely outraged, and he had finally given up because for an entire year, no, for the 3 whole years we've known each other, he already knows how I am. I'll go back to work now. He knows that I'm not the kind of exemplary employee who would let go of his resolve just because he was told to by his superior.
Kirahara.
In a way, I expected this. And from the looks on the faces of my coworkers, it truly set in that this was no longer a place I belonged in. That was a joke, right? Even though he knew I was awful at making jokes, Matsuoka still asked. I was supposed to have felt truly grateful for Matsuoka's words that were attempting to reaffirm the persona he's known me as up until now, in place of my current self, which he currently rejects. Yet, it's been a pleasure working with all of you. By next month, I will... What the hell is this? Why are you leaving before me? Shouldn't it be a given that I'm supposed to get the boot before you do?
Machan?
The Hoshograph team will never go back to what it once was. Not while I'm around, at least. February 19th, Tuesday. As the night grew late, and the hotel cafe became deserted with the exception of us two, we sit in greater silence than usual.
Guitar-kun. No. Guitar-kun?
Yeah, because for a while, Yoko-san had been staring at the ceiling in silence.
Are you really sure about this? Throwing away everything for her sake?
We were talking about you, not me, Yoko-san. Won't you return with us? Together with Kazusa and me, to Vienna. I told her everything about all the things I had done in the past few days, without hiding a single thing.
So you finally went and did it. You accepted her to the point of destroying your own brakes.
Sorry for not consulting with you.
I should be the one who's sorry. I should have done everything in my power to stop you the moment I realized what a dangerous person you could be.
Are you against it? For Kazusa and me too.
I couldn't be against it. How could I be? My daughter is now happier than she has ever been in her life.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
But it's unfortunate. The resolution she wished for is different than mine.
With a very difficult look on her face, Yoko-san voices her opposition to my actions with those severe words. Just like all the people I betrayed.
If you didn't have any other people precious to you, then I would have desired this too.
However, I do have people I consider precious from the bottom of my heart.
If only Kazusa could have gotten over you, this wouldn't have happened.
However, Kazusa's feelings are too pure, too strong.
Most of all, had I not fallen ill, you wouldn't have had to get involved.
However, Yoko-san...
My conclusion is that my illness is to blame for all of this.
As expected of Yoko-san, she is able to summarize the current situation.
One by one, the cogs got screwed loose, and everything is moving in a direction that no one desired. And I was powerless to stop it.
That, including herself, there is no one in the wrong. That the fault lays in the situation and the turn of events that led to it. Or perhaps some childish idea that society is ultimately to blame. A point of view that is almost the complete opposite of mine. A difference in opinion that could make one wonder who is the more mature one.
In the end, my daughter has ruined your life.
Since, no matter how you look at it, I truly do believe that everything is my fault.
Had I been the one directly responsible, I would accept any divine punishment awaiting me. However, I couldn't bear seeing that happening to my daughter.
Everything was my decision, my responsibility. On top of that, I truly do believe that I've made the best possible decision.
That's why I'm sorry.
That's why I have no right to be apologized to.
In the end, neither you nor Kazusa will be able to stay in Japan.
It's not like we're running away. The two of us talked about it and concluded that it was the right choice.
So, just because the two of you talked about it, that means you're not running away? That makes no sense at all. And while I'm at it, that's a lie, is it not?
Her tendency to guess what I'm thinking, despite the complete discrepancy in our perceptions, has always been something I've been weak to. Yoko-san, I really think Kazusa needs you. That's why I forcibly changed the topic. I'll make sure your medical needs are looked after. You won't be any less free than in Japan. No, I'll make sure you have even more freedom. No, the one who diverted the conversation in the first place was Yoko-san. I am merely steering it back in the right direction. The reason I came to see her was to get an answer from her in regards to Kazusa. So, would you please come with us? Would you protect Kazusa with me?
Kitahara-kun,
Of course, with the goal of getting her to agree. So she doesn't have to suffer anymore. Be there for her and guide her like you always have.
how good-natured can you possibly be? No, how ill-natured could you possibly be? The person who's going to suffer the most from now on isn't Kazusa, it's you.
But as I try to rush a solution from her, Yoko-san keeps stopping me in my tracks. Do I look that helpless right now?
As for Kazusa, ignoring how people around her will react, she herself will be the happiest she has ever been. After all, she'll be with and protected by the man she loves more than anyone else. But you, there'll be no one to protect you. After all, Kazusa doesn't have that kind of strength.
Yoko-san,
She can do nothing but stay by your side and play the piano at her own leisure, even as you're going to be working yourself to the bone.
I've known that from the start.
True hell might be awaiting you in the future.
Yoko-san is telling me things that no longer hold sway over me with the way things have turned out. The undeniable truth.
As you'll be busy protecting Kazusa, you'll be unable to communicate with anyone else. You'll be stepping into a place where everything you come across will be new to you. It's fair to say it'll be even more difficult than living alone.
An ant works restlessly in preparation for the winter, while the grasshopper sings with grace and spends its days having fun. That's why only the ant will survive the winter, or so the fable goes.
You also can't afford to give up on your decision. After all, if you were ever to collapse, it would mean that she would collapse with you.
And outside the world of fables, in the real world, the grasshopper will revel in the enjoyment of playing the piano, while the ant will do everything it can to fill the stash of food to last the winter. And from now on, it will have to provide for the grasshopper as well, all while having to abandon its own nest and alienating itself from all the other ants.
You'll be bearing an unimaginable pressure in a completely different land. Even if it is you, I would question the possibility of your being able to survive.
As long as Kazusa is by my side, I'll be fine, you know? I never expected her to protect me, as I always have. I'll find my potential in my life by myself. That may be simply an attempt from me to put up a front before Yoko-san. I'll make sure to find employment over there. I'll learn the necessary language, and the two of us, no, the three of us will bear it all together, even though I have been adamant about this since the beginning. She has diverted the thread of the conversation to the bitter end. This is my tiny form of revenge for that. As long as she's with me, I'll be capable of all that. And she can just sit there close to me and play her piano all day if she wants. However, there wasn't the slightest hint of a joke in what I had said then. And if it's to protect Kazusa, I'll help you out too. It's truly an arrogant thing to say to someone who makes probably 100 times the amount I make, and has many decades more experience than me. But I was completely serious about taking responsibility for her life. It's because it's a way that I can make Kazusa even happier. So please, come with us. Make her the happiest grasshopper in the world. The elated grasshopper will survive the winter with a smile, with the ant by its side. Yoko-san looks me straight in the eyes one more time. I notice a slightly exhausted smile spread across her face. Not knowing if she finally given up on trying to dissuade me, or if she's just tired of my stubbornness.
Kitahara-kun?
Yeah? And with the same soft expression.
I'm sorry. I've already decided.
She finally said it. The answer she had avoided giving all this time.
I see. I suspected as much.
I'm sorry.
Why are you apologizing, Haruki? Is it not my fault for putting all the responsibility on you?
But
The sins I committed, the absurdities I asked of you, that's something the daughter should be talking to her mother about.
Kazusa,
I knew from the beginning. I was prepared for the worst ever since I heard about her illness. So you don't have to give me that worried look.
even as Kazusa hears about the devastating results of my conversation with Yoko-san, she still does her best to encourage me. However,
But I see. Mom isn't leaving Japan anymore.
though in the end, that forced strength of hers didn't last more than a few seconds. Yoko-san had stubbornly kept to her own resolve. Her resolve to die in the country she was born in took precedence over anything else. And as a Japanese person myself, I could not do anything but accept that. Even so, it's not like it's decided she won't come with us. I'll try talking to her again next week.
Haruki,
While the fact was obvious to Kazusa, I was unable to hide my shock when I learned her verdict. Yoko-san isn't feeling very well right now, but her point of view might change when she feels better. Only Yoko-san will stand up for us, no matter what, despite everything. I thought she would stay by Kazusa's side. Despite everything, I thought she would stay by Kazusa's side.
I don't think that will happen.
That's not true. We can't give up. I was under the naive delusion that the chain reaction of negative events would take a break in this instance.
Isn't it said that people become more honest when they're weak?
Who in the world said that?
I did, of course. Haven't I proven that to you already? So, I understand. Mom really wants to stay in Japan. That's more important than anything to her.
But if Yoko-san is alone in staying in Japan, then Kazusa won't be there during her final moments.
Don't worry. Even if the European branch of Tomoyoko office becomes completely inactive, I'll still be able to provide for myself, somehow.
Yet to Kazusa, that possibility is too cruel to even come to her mind. Somehow? How exactly? Are you capable of operating an office?
I'll do a much easier job. Perhaps I'll teach the kids around the neighborhood how to play the piano. I'll be able to make enough money for myself then, right?
You? A teacher? Perhaps it would make for a good comedy. So I go along with Kazusa and divert the conversation.
Those quips of yours are really lame, you know. I should be fine dealing with kids somehow. Don't underestimate me.
After all, if she starts to agonize over the possibility, then we might be unable to move forward. For as long as she decides to make Japan, or rather Hojo Hospital, her own battleground, we will be unable to stay with her. We will be unable to stay by her. You yourself shouldn't underestimate kids. You'll need to be able to communicate with them in a way that's more complex than dealing with adults. The two of us no longer have the choice to stay in Japan. We cannot commit any more sins than we already have. We cannot plant our roots in a place where Setsuna is present.
Hey. Can I sleep at your place tonight?
Kazusa.
Only sleeping. I won't break the promise we made.
I wasn't really worried about you, but I can't guarantee I'll be able to hold myself back.
Even less reason to worry then. You're not that weak-willed, and you were the one who made me swear that stupid oath in the first place. And all without even a hint of consideration about how I felt.
Sorry.
It's okay. I understand. I've known that you're that kind of person for a long time.
That's right. We cannot plant our roots in a place where Setsuna is present. We cannot consummate our love. Sorry, I forgot to put it on silent.
You could have answered, you know.
No, I'll call them back later.
Was it Setsuna?
No, it was from work. And it's probably not anything urgent either.
I see.
There was a slight glint of doubt in her eyes. However, what I said was the truth. It wasn't from Setsuna, but it was also a lie. It wasn't a call from work either. Let's go home. You must be hungry.
Okay.
The truth is, I had hoped for a little more time. I wanted to think about what I would tell them. I turned off the power of my cell phone that had the words Izuka Takia written on its display. February 22nd, Friday.
Anyway, here's to a day's hard work. Cheers! Cheers!
Takia is desperate. He's desperate to try and keep everyone in high spirits. Almost as if trying to deny the reason the four of us are gathered here in the first place.
Alright, let's start ordering. I'm in the mood for some Korean jjigae. What do you guys think?
Izuka-san,
I see, then let's order a large variety of stuff instead. Let's see here. French fries and cold tofu.
Takia? Fine, I get it. You want some dashimaki eggs, right? No matter what we eat, you always...
Izuka-san, just shut up already. We'll handle things from here. You can just sit there and drink.
Takia was desperate. He was desperate to hold back Yanagihara Tomo, who seemed ready for a fight, and Io, who looked like she was dying to say something. From the moment I showed my face in the meeting spot by the station, to the moment we reached the bar table, it was Takia's idea to discuss this in a bar. A bit unlike himself, he's going above and beyond to make things easier for me alone. But once our toasts were said, there was no longer any stopping these two.
Kitahara-san, what did you do to Setsuna?
Yanagihara-san.
I'll explain from the start. Thing is, ever since the beginning of the week...
No, I keep telling you, it's all a misunderstanding. Yet, Tomo is jumping to all kinds of weird conclusions.
Do you have any idea what state Setsuna is in right now? It's all because of you, you know. I do think she's exaggerating a little bit, but it's true that Setsuna isn't answering any of our calls.
It's probably because of something stupid, right? It shouldn't be anything worth getting so worked up about. Tomo is just being overly nosy, as always.
Hold on a second. Don't interrupt me. Didn't I invite you guys so you could hear what I have to say?
But the one who invited Haruki was me.
And the one who convinced Takia was me. So we can't let you just throw around accusations unchallenged. Though I'm not going to defend Haruki to the same extent as Takia.
They all looked like they had many questions to ask me, but it was too disorganized to get anywhere. But everything from their opinions to their information was completely scattered. The difference of opinion between Tomo and the other two was like night and day. You can't get in touch with Setsuna.
I asked her mother. It seems she is at least still going to work. So I think she just might be sulking a little bit. I keep telling you I saw her. She was crying her eyes out right in front of his apartment.
She has been like this since the beginning of the week. So we thought we had to talk to you about it at least.
I've never seen Setsuna like that before. Even back then, 2 years ago, she was never like this.
Setsuna was this Sunday. She was in front of my apartment. That was the day after.
What did you tell her? No, there's only one thing that could put her in a state like that. You broke up with her, didn't you? Like I said, calm down. Why do you always have to go with the first thing that comes to your mind?
Well, something could have happened which ultimately led to the topic of breaking up in the heat of the moment. But obviously they wouldn't mean it.
That's not true. You're only saying that because you haven't seen how bad Setsuna is doing right now.
Tomo uses every fiber of her being denouncing me. Yet, it still isn't enough. Or rather, the harder she pushes against me, the more the other two come to my defense.
Tell me, Kitahara-san, you're together with Tomo Kazusa now, aren't you? You've been seeing her in secret, haven't you?
I told you to drop that. I only planned this meeting because you promised not to talk about that.
Sorry, Haruki. We obviously don't believe that.
But, I saw her! She was in the apartment right next to Kitahara-san's!
It may be due to the difference in time spent with me, or merely their disposition towards Yanagihara-san's personality. What's ironic is, the more they come to my defense, the more Takia and Io stray further from the truth. And Yanagihara-san, who's acting the most hostile towards me right now, is the only one who knows the ridiculously horrible truth.
It's just that I don't think Tomo is completely making things up either.
Yo,
We thought that if things have gone this far, perhaps Toma might have something to do with it.
Take, for example, that ever since Tomo-san came back to Japan, you've been having a lot of complicated feelings or something like that.
Maybe you went to see one of her concerts without telling Satsuna-chan. Does that ring a bell?
you guys.
Why won't you believe me? You were taking everything I told you so seriously until yesterday.
It's not just that they trust me.
Why do you lose your spirits the moment Kitahara-san is around? Aren't you worried about Setsuna?
Well, of course we're worried. We're worried, but until Haruki...
Let's listen to what Haruki has to say. If he manages to explain everything, then you'd be satisfied too, right, Tomo?
Takia and Io want to believe me. They're waiting for me to dispel their worries. They want me to laugh at the idea I'd break up with Setsuna. They want me to reaffirm that there's nothing between Kazusa and me anymore, that our friendship would never break apart.
So, Haruki, be honest with us.
Io, let's say I were to improvise an answer. Scratch my head with a half-regretful look on my face and say, sorry, we got into a little fight. They would undoubtedly believe me over her. They'd look at each other and laugh as they said, not again, and then promise to help us make up.
There's something we can do to help, right? Don't hold it all in. For Setsuna-san's sake, too.
Takia. And then everything would be resolved. Because this friendship is almost rigged to continue existing. So even now, we can still get back into those old peaceful days with just the four of us. Perhaps even the five of us. I could turn back the clock, and it'd be as if nothing happened. I love Kazusa. How idiotic. Of course I can't go back. I told them everything. When I was finished telling them everything, I told Setsuna, silence enveloped our table, because as I went from one matter to another, I was vindicating Yanagihira Tomo little by little. I told the truth in its terrible entirety. Neither Takia nor Io tried reinterpreting it to make me look better, even though I'm sure they could.
Yo.
The bustle of the bar painfully reverberates in my ear. After all, this is the only table this quiet. Yanagihira Tomo glares at me and looks at Takia and Io from the side. And Io, rather than looking at any one person, stares down at the table as her shoulders shake slightly.
You're lying.
And in unison, her voice was also subtly shaking.
Tell me you're lying, Haruki. Laugh at me and say it was all a bad joke.
Io,
No, that's not what I want to hear.
I trying to be considerate. In a way, almost identical to how Io usually is, was the last thing she wanted to hear.
I mean, we always knew that Tomo Kazusa was in love with you 5 years ago, and just as deeply as Setsuna was.
The moment the truth slipped from my mouth, Io stopped doubting her thoughts.
But it's too late for you to accept those feelings now. She's awful for suggesting it, but you're even more awful for accepting her, Haruki.
She finally understood that I'm not lying, that the true lie had been everything I had told her up until today.
How many years have you and Setsuna been together? How many times do you have to betray her? How many times do you have to hurt her until you're satisfied?
That realization was visible when she raised her head.
How many years have you been separated from Tomo Kazusa? So why does it have to be her? How much do you have to obsess over her until you're finished?
She grits her teeth, pulls away her face, and her eyes start watering, as if on the verge of crying. But in her misery, she can't even bring herself to cry.
She's the woman who ruined your relationship with Setsuna and ran away immediately after. She already abandoned you once, Haruki.
Both anger and sadness, disappointment and confusion. All these emotions blended together.
I don't get it. I don't get what's going on inside your head at all, Haruki.
I'm sorry.
Don't say I'm sorry. What you're supposed to do right now isn't apologize. Why can't you understand that?
But at the same time, it was an expression she was showing me because we were friends. Io hadn't given up yet. She was desperately trying to get me back on her side. That Setsuna needs me. And that the best possible resolution is for me to be with Setsuna. This would be for Setsuna's sake, but also mine. However,
What are you going to do about Setsuna? Are you going to just abandon her after ruining her life like this?
Yanagihara, but Yanagihara-san was on Setsuna's side more than anyone else.
The two of you were engaged until now. Why would you go out of your way to make her feel like she's in heaven just to put her through hell? What did she do to deserve that?
No, Setsuna hasn't done anything.
Do you hate her that much? Going out of your way to make sure she suffers in the worst way possible? Do you think she killed your parents or something?
You're wrong about this. Please. That's why she's brazenly throwing all the questions at me that neither Takia nor Io have ever dared to ask me. The most important question they just had to make sure of. and the question that I want to answer the least.
All this time, Setsuna has chosen a lifestyle that would go in line with yours, Kitahara. She limited her own opportunities for your sake.
What Yanagihira Tomo wanted out of Setsuna was different from me.
Her education, her job, even her singing. Yes, even her singing.
She understood Setsuna's songs better than anyone else, was a bigger fan than anyone else, and was her biggest promoter. She desired the artist Yukina more than the actual Ogaso Setsuna.
She made it a condition that she could still be with you, that she could still have the time to see you.
But Setsuna graduated, found herself a job, and her appearance on stage grew fewer and fewer because I wasn't on the stage with her, because I wouldn't go to see her concerts, because it would take time away from being with me, her own strength and potential, and the reality that stood in its way, and then all the other reasons. But no one would believe me if I told them I had nothing to do with them or her decision.
Because she intended to be with you for forever. She intended to spend her entire life with you.
Despite that, she thought about Setsuna's feelings and respected the path she chose, all while looking at me in contempt. Yet she still looked at the two of us when we were together with a bitter smile.
So why Toma Kazusa after all this time? Why can't you be happy with Setsuna?
But just now, she was hit with the horrifying reality that Setsuna's sacrifice was completely pointless.
Was she that good in bed? Did she find all your weak spots?
No! I understand her anger completely, but I cannot do anything to quell it. I have no choice but to accept it all.
Losing your sense just because some woman you used to know spread her legs for you? Did it feel that good?
Don't say that! Blame me all you want, but leave Kazusa out of it.
Did she perhaps know some amazing technique? I bet she played you the same way she plays that piano of hers. Just like her mother used to.
Stop it! Stop it! I haven't slept with Kazusa. She's not that kind of woman. But I couldn't accept her going after Kazusa. She's been through a lot too. She's been lost and suffering. So please, don't talk like that about her. The only things I want to protect are Kazusa's feelings and her honor, because I promised to protect her. The only one facing judgment was to be me.
Really? You are the worst.
But the retort and my judgment came from a direction I didn't expect.
You haven't even slept with her? You haven't even done anything. It's not like you're burdened with something you can't take back. You're just going to abandon Setsuna simply because you love her?
Io? I insisted on the last bastion that is protecting Kazusa.
Then what does Setsuna mean to you? Are you saying that even after joining with her in both body and mind, your bond with her is still no match for what you have with Tomo-san?
What are you? But That attempt only had the opposite effect on her. Io is completely and utterly disgusted with me.
What does Setsuna mean to you? Do you think that any of those things you said gives you an excuse? How much are you looking down on Setsuna, Haruki?
No, that's not... I didn't... wait! All of the color drains from her face. Her feelings evaporate. And the anger she directed at me earlier is nowhere to be seen.
You've ruined everything for those around you, and now you're saying it's all platonic between you two? What a poor excuse for love. I feel like vomiting.
Wait a sec! I was prepared to lose my friends today. I thought that it was only natural for them to hate me, to look at me with nothing but contempt. Yet, the words Io threw at me hurt far more than I ever imagined.
Fine then. The two of you can go ahead and live in your little fantasy world and play house together.
You have it wrong. Listen to me, Io. I never imagined I'd be met with disgust about that one thing. And to have my reasonings be so utterly rejected.
It doesn't matter how much you two hurt everyone around you. After all, your bond is so strong that you can't see beyond each other, so it's fine.
Kazusa has been through a lot. Even with how famous she is, she's still all by herself. So I'm the only one she has. All the things I desperately planned to hold in until everything came to an end.
So, it's alright since Setsuna hasn't been through a lot. It's okay for you to abandon her because she's not all by herself.
I never said that! All of the harsh constraints that I put on myself in order not to hurt Setsuna more than I already have.
That's exactly what you're saying, Haruki. If you disappear, Setsuna won't be all alone. You won't feel sorry for her, so it's okay to abandon her.
That's what you're saying. All of that didn't just become utterly meaningless. It ended up degrading Setsuna even more. That's not... Yet again, I wasn't prepared for this whatsoever. I kept telling myself that I was going to make enemies of everyone, that I was going to lose all of my friends. Yet, I am...
It hurts, doesn't it, Haruki?
It does hurt. It hurts that my feelings aren't being conveyed. It hurts that my love for her isn't reaching them.
But you know, Haruki, this is what Setsuna looks like after being abandoned by you.
Yes, it is. This is the desperate pain Setsuna was bottling up back then. This is my retribution for switching partners overnight. Something I must accept. Io's very last...
The two of you, go home.
However, the moment I thought my heart was going to break in two, a calm yet overpowering voice interrupts me.
If you have no intentions of convincing Haruki, then go home. If all you're going to do is talk down to him, then leave and never see him again.
Izuka-san?
After being told to shut up by the women, Takia had been keeping to himself.
Give up already. Actually, it seems you've already given up. Then you're of no use here.
What did you say?
Takia, who had been wordlessly gazing at me from the side, suddenly takes control of the whole conversation.
I haven't given up. I'll convince Haruki. I'll make him reconsider his feelings about Setsuna, no matter what.
Of all things, he willingly stands against the women's sense of justice.
There's no need for people like you two to be around if you're only going to drive Haruki against the wall. So, get out of here already.
Takia, stop it! He's going against Io. He's going against the person who was closer to him than anyone else. The person who he watched over Setsuna and me with.
What is this, Takia? Are you defending Haruki? Are you telling me I'm wrong?
I don't give a damn about that. All I know is that you're currently in the way of me talking to Haruki.
Hey, whose side are you on? Mine or Haruki?
I thought that would be obvious. Cut it out already.
No matter how I look at it, Takia has no reason at all to defend me. And no matter how I look at it, the ones who are saying the right things here are Io and Yanagihara. And yet, I know the name Takia is going to say.
I'm on Haruki's side.
Yet, I couldn't stop it from boiling over. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. I think Haruki is making a mistake here. It has always been my opinion that a romantic relationship is not worth ruining the relationship with your friends, especially if they're long-term friends. He's also sacrificing a job, which, to be honest, could probably be done remotely. Now, this is an old cynic's point of view, and Haruki is a horny 20-something.